were S. Our rooms were adjacent, so we could talk about work late into the night. 10 years ago, we started to see our time together as a way to relieve work pressures. When we realized it was beneficial to our work, we told ourselves it wasn't cheating. We even made jokes about it. After a few years of marriage, I began to feel guilty about my secret encounters with David. We stopped having them, but then, during a difficult negotiation, David suggested we start over to reduce stress. I reluctantly agreed, and then I discovered that I was drawn back into the affair. The affair helped me feel less guilty. After a long day of negotiations the next day, I decided to meet up with him. I don't know how or when John found it or how he got that picture, but when I saw it on my laptop, I was shocked. David, who was sitting next to me, quickly shut down my laptop and requested a break. We entered the corridor, where he was visibly upset. I said that wasn't the last time I used it, so he suggested we take a second look. We opened the laptop again and looked at the picture on the screen. Then he said, "Oh no, that's just you. I don't understand how that could be. Now is the time for you to return to the hotel and check to see if anyone was allowed to enter your room the previous evening. I will stay here to take care of everything. If you want to know where John was last night, to get to the hotel, use a taxi. You got it, and I'll see you later." My body was drenched in sweat. It would be a good sign that we're done if John put that photo on my laptop. And I arrived at the hotel in no time. On my way to the reception desk, I asked if anyone had entered my room. They checked their system and told me that a Mr. John Baker was given a key at 9:45 last night and returned it 30 minutes later. The guy working there told me this. Since his phone was off, I left a voicemail telling him it was important to call me back. His secretary told him he was in California on a business trip and would return the next day, so he traveled to California and may have visited me on his way back to the US. We were both surprised by the outcome. After packing, I called David on my phone to tell him the situation. After a brief silence, he said, "Jessica, it appears that we are both in danger of getting divorced, or perhaps something even more serious. A divorce is worse than this. How could that be? I need to go back to St. Louis and talk to John. Maybe we can fix things. I have a flight leaving at midday and will be back by 4:30. I'll keep you updated. Until we finish our business discussions, I'm required to stay here." My only hope on the flight back to St. Louis was to get John to chat. I wanted to emphasize that what happened was physical and not emotional. I wanted him to view my adultery as a one-time event without repercussions. When I returned home, everything seemed normal. But when I got into our bedroom and discovered his clothing and belongings gone, I figured he knew and left me. I must find him. After many failed calls, I went to his parents' house to find out where he was and acquire any information. Visiting him at his parents' place was hard. He seemed chilly and distant, making me sick. He told me he was divorcing me without waiting for my input. Nothing would change his mind. His request to write a letter stating my side. It felt like he was twisting the knife. I left and cried in my car. The future we planned was unraveling. The family we wanted, retirement and grandchildren, wouldn't happen. I fretted selfishly that I could be too old to have babies by the time I found someone fresh, while feeling so miserable. I mustered the motivation to drive back to what felt like an empty house, overwhelmed by grief and unsure of what to do. John continues his tale. After a restless night dreaming of Jessica and David, I made coffee downstairs at my parents' house. Feeling sad, I grabbed my laptop and camera to review the images. I obsessed over finding David in those images. It was hard to see David's face in the photos, but I kept looking and saw something on his right arm as he reached for Jessica. I found a tattoo when I zoomed in. Zooming in, I saw Janie 8 written in a heart tattoo. David's wife is Janie 8. After proving it, I walked upstairs, showered, and got ready for work. When I returned, my mom was starting breakfast. I instantly prepared a few CDs with the affair photo and David's tattoo close up at work. I printed multiple copies and filed them. I went straight to HR to talk to Chad, the manager, feeling determined. We worked at the same tiny company and played golf together. I showed him the images and waited for his reaction. "John, what's this?" 30 pics. Chad seemed inquisitive and amused. "It looks odd, Chad, but that's my wife and David Price. The images were taken Tuesday night in David's Denver hotel room, as the date and hour show. They were on a company discussion trip." "John, no, not easy to hear. Your plan? You could dismiss them both for violating their employment contract's no dating policy. Never before have we done it. Do you wish to proceed? It'll reveal the affair. Are you considering divorcing Jessica? I've told my lawyer to start divorce papers, but if the company doesn't act, I'll sue." "Thank you, John. I'll contact our legal team to begin." I told Hubert, my boss, about my personal life. He was shocked and worried about my wife and David Price. I requested the remainder of the week off for vacation. He agreed immediately. He appreciated my California trip work before we parted. He said the customer was pleased with my speedy fix and manufacturing line restart. He also suggested I take over California as the engineer is departing for health reasons. I said I'd think about it and tell him next week. Lucy, Hubert's secretary, prevented me going. Your wife came looking for you, John. She promised to return. Lucy, I dislike seeing my wife. Please inform her if she returns. John. I'm sorry, I had no idea there was a problem. Lucy, our divorce is a major issue. She cheated with David Price. Lucy loves talking, so I thought everyone at work would know by lunchtime. When I returned to my desk, I called David's wife, Janet. Despite seeing each other at business occasions, telling her about our relationships was difficult. Hi Janet, John Baker. How are you? I'm fine, John. David indicated you might call but didn't explain. Janet, we must talk. Is now good? Sure, John. I have to go to the hairdresser at 1, but I'm free. Are you familiar with my address? Yes, I do. I'll arrive in 15 minutes. The pricing made me concerned about what to do. I couldn't let David off the hook and let Jessica to handle everything. Hi, John. Come in. Do you want coffee? Janet told me I arrived and pointed to the living room. Janet, no problem. I requested basic black. Soon after, she returned with coffee and sat across from me. What's up? She asked. I considered gently breaking it to you, opted to be direct. I caught and surprised my wife cheating on me with her coworker while she was on business. Every morning the alarm went off at 6, starting our day. My wife Jessica and I got out of bed as the sun rose, despite not wanting to. As I sat up and put my feet on the floor, I groaned because I was fatigued. Why act so old? Jessica joked on her way to the bathroom. After reflecting on how much fun I had the night before, I joked, after last night I feel like I am. She always made things exciting. Jessica's work trip started today, leaving me alone for a week. I was alone. It didn't excite me. As I heard the shower running, I pondered joining her but decided against it. She confessed. I didn't want to consider it because David has always been a caring husband and father. But I knew their affair would eventually be out. Guess this is it. I'm sad about your marriage and my own. David's fate worries me. Finding a similar paying work at his age may be difficult. I must decide what to do next. Want copies of my photos? I requested. Leave them, please. I'll get the guts to look at them, Janet said quietly. I'm deeply sorry. Janet. I couldn't ignore it. Jessica and I were close to having children, but I can't picture a future with someone I don't trust. My voice was sad as I said our kid's mother needs both. John, I understand. Thanks for being honest. I want to hear from you first and apologize again for Jessica's situation. She and David will feel terrible when they discover my knowledge of their affair. I wish it was one time. Something about time. Forgiving would be simpler. I believe it's been happening for years. Now that's out there, it's hard to absorb. I have pride, and I need to keep my head up, Janet said, her voice sounding sad and determined. Just before I left and drove back to my parents' house, I made a sincere statement that if I could help, I would. I received the final divorce documents this morning. My attorney had handled everything, so I hadn't spoken to or seen her since she arrived at my parents' house. The divorce agreement required me to give up the house, which had a large mortgage, and all of the furniture and other items I had purchased on credit to end my marriage to Jessica, which caused her a major financial setback. Her initial attempt to oppose the divorce failed, but I gave her a choice: either she signed the divorce papers within 48 hours, or I would change the cause to cheating and post images of her and David online. She gave in to the pressure and agreed within 48 hours, which is why I am free. I need to tell you something tough, I replied, eager to finish. Your spouse and my wife were in Denver, Janet. I'm divorcing Jessica and firing them. I hate breaking this news, but it's public soon. I wanted to warn you. I have proof with images. I watched for a reaction, but she was emotionless. John, I've had doubts about David's business trips for a time, but I hope they're wrong. Despite being fired, he was able to find a new job, but his higher salary makes it hard for him to pay alimony and child support. I live in Santa Maria, California, a peaceful seaside town halfway between the Bay Area and Los Angeles. It is difficult to enter the market due to the situation. I have found a companionship with a woman who lives in the same building as me. She, like me, has been divorced, but we have found solace and compatibility with each other during our separation. We are taking things slowly to determine if we have a future together. I needed some alone time because I was still reeling from the night before. Jessica returned to the bedroom full of energy, making my slow pace seem even slower. You lazy bones, get up. She jokingly reminded me of our expenses. I replied. Okay, I'm up. I slowly walk to the bathroom and receive a wake-up call. After getting dressed, we shared breakfast and went our separate ways. Jessica to the airport and me to work. We work at a St. Louis manufacturing company. Jessica, a business negotiating lawyer, frequently travels for work, such as to Denver to sign a new deal with an aerospace company. Business trips last around a week and occur several times a year. Jessica, 35, graduated from the State University's law school 12 years ago. Her height of 5 feet 4 inches, weight of 125 pounds, and figure of 3'4", make her noticeable. I was immediately attracted by Jessica from the very beginning. Jessica is a lawyer, and my name is John Baker. As an engineer, I work with Jessica. At 37, I'm 6'8" and stay fit with regular exercise. Golf is our hobby, and we often play foursomes with friends. I fell in love at first sight when we met. Despite being fired from her job due to the events, Jessica is a smart attorney who was able to find a new job within a month. It may not pay as much or have the same benefits, but I've heard she's coping and has even started dating again. She wishes her new boyfriend the best of luck.